What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be reviewing CBS's brand new mock draft. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, join the YouTube community. We're on the way to 10K, so let's try to reach that by the end of the year. All the other links are down in the description below, and you can also check out all the beautiful perks that are below my board, which is below my face. So feel free to check that out. Let's get right into this. Let's have some fun here. So this is, again, I've reviewed a billion Josh Edwards mock drafts, so gotta love that. But let's have some fun here. Love being able to pick on Josh because, he's consistent with this. So we obviously have to hold him to a higher standard since apparently because he is CBS's lead draft analyst for mock drafts, we gotta make sure that, they're putting out some good content. So starting out with the first overall pick, they're still going Caleb Williams. Starting off early today. What is his name? David, right? It's David Edwards. Or Josh. There we go. Josh, I'm watching you. Obviously, I disagree with this pick. I'd go Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Kyler Murray will be able to see him come back to action as of tomorrow. He is going to be a massive addition to this team. So, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the way to go. Obviously, Caleb, his talent is unquestioned. I don't know if he's actually going to come out in this class, hence why I have my mock drafts without him in it. But ultimately, he's a great talent. I would be really sad if Arizona ends up doing this and creating a ton of quarterback drama with two very, let's just say, temperamental QBs. Drake May goes to the Bears. Obviously, I make jokes about the Bears not going after another UNC quarterback. But, we'll talk about both their picks and Marvin Harrison and Drake May combined. I do like Drake May a lot. He's actually risen up my board considerably, like week after week, even in his weeks where he has 50% completion percentage. I see the fact that he's taking risks. And for me, I like that a lot. He being able to see Tez Walker. I think Tez Walker's been like one of those guys who's just completely unlocked Drake May's abilities. And he's just showing what Drake May will do with a target he really trusts. For me, I didn't see that last year. I saw, especially with Josh Downs, a lot of missed targets, just stuff that was off. And, you got to find that guy that Drake May has rhythm with. But once he does, his big arm and his big playmaking ability really is special. So I got to give him credit where credit is due. I was a little bit lower on Drake May coming into this year. Obviously, I was high on him coming into the draft year, but, tempers got a little bit fluctuated there for a moment. But I really do understand the love for Drake May. It's not like a situation, I'm trying to remember, like Desmond Ridder I could never get on board with. He's still been able to start for a team, not anymore, but, regardless, there's certain players I don't get fully on board with. With Drake May, even when I had my doubts, I still was understanding of why I think I would come on board, and I'm on board. So I do think the Bears, if they end up with picks 2 and 3, would end up being the right option here. The question really ends up being, do you think that Justin Fields is worth giving one more shot? That's a topic for another day. If you guys are here at pick number 3, I think that it might be time to call it quits, but it really depends on, who's trying to bid for this pick, for example. So it just really is up to you on that one. Dallas Turner, I don't have to discuss Marvin Harrison Jr., do I? Great compliment to DJ Moore, probably the best player in the class. You got Dallas Turner that is next for the Giants. I'm usually against this idea, but ultimately, edge rusher 2 is a big concern for the Giants. My only issue with Turner being the pick over someone like Verse, over someone like Braylon Trice, is the fact that he's small, just like KT. And it's not like small. Again, Dallas Turner is my number 1 edge rusher. I'm not saying the value of him is a bad pick. What I am saying is you are lacking the ability to set the edge properly with 2 edge rushers that are going to be sub 250-ish. So, for me personally, I would wait if I'm New York and try to trade up for Braylon Trice because you get 270 and you still get that same level of production, very smart. And Braylon Trice is the best edge rusher in the country at the moment. He is red hot. So excited to see what he's going to do. But Dallas Turner, he's a welcomed addition. I'm just saying at pick 4, I feel like there might be better value elsewhere, other positions. And, maybe that would be where I would lean. Brock Bowers for the Patriots. I personally would go Bo Nix here. I know that some very opinionated Patriots fans do not like that idea. However, if you end up going Brock Bowers, it's a pretty good consolation prize. It doesn't solve your tackle problem, but at the same time, you don't need to solve all your problems, controversial to most people's opinions. You don't need to solve all the problems in 1 year. You don't usually ever get to see someone like Brock Bowers. So at least in this situation, you're getting something that you won't be able to find another year. You can't wait another year to draft a Brock Bowers. Maybe you could wait another year and draft someone close to the talent level of Olu Fashanu, but you can't draft someone close to the talent level of Brock Bowers. So that's the consolation prize right there. They do need a weapon, so it doesn't not make sense. It's just, for me, there's a massive hole at a key position, which you could get, to be fair, another Bo Nix another year. But, there's sometimes where, the need is that huge where it does replace the BPA ideology. Olu Fashanu is the Rams pick. This is a 10 out of 10 pick. I think that he is one of the best prospects in this class. He still has major anchor concerns, and I'm curious to see what the stats are after the Michigan game because it's still going on right now. But I watched some of that, and it's like, I do see him giving up some ground there. I do. I'm seeing a lot of Drew Aller scrambling. It's not just, it's far from just Olu Fashanu's fault, like very far from it. But, there are quite a few times where I'm seeing that pocket collapse a little too much for my liking. But dude's still super young. He still has so much to learn. And this is a roster where that is a luxury that they do have is time. So big fan of that pick. Joe Alt for the Packers. Obviously, you know how much I love that pick. I make that pick myself. One of the best offensive tackles in the class, hands down. And he's just been consistent. So, he rose. Well, it's hard to raise him up my board. He's still top 20, no doubt in my mind. There's just so many damn good players in this class that, like, sometimes you could just say pick 17th overall on my board. And the fact that I'm willing to take him maybe top 5 shows how damn good this class is and how versatile it is overall. You can have someone who's in the top 20 who is worth a top 5 pick. Like, that's how good of a class this is overall. JJ McCarthy is next. He showed to be able to handle the pressure even when he wasn't able to throw a billion yards. I think right now he's at like 70 or 80 yards. He's still been extremely efficient, and then he uses his legs to kick some ass. And, it sucks to see that most likely Penn State's going to lose this game. But JJ McCarthy, to be fair, I've always had Michigan above Penn State in my rankings. Just sucks to see them go down this poorly. But JJ has been able to show that there's far more assets than just his arm. And those legs, they do really add a whole new dimension to the offense, and it allows him to get out of pressure. Then you got Jared Verse here for the Broncos. I don't feel like this is a bad pick. I know some Broncos fans won't be too happy with the idea just because, you oft quite a few of your edge rushers because you have confidence in the ones that you do have. I love Nick Bonito in there, and, you do have some good players, but I feel like the value of Jared Verse with the potential of him just being a day one top 15 edge rusher in the NFL. Maybe he could be a top 20. He's a guaranteed starter in the NFL. It's hard to find those guys, and that's worth about $25 million at the moment based on, Montez Sweat, his contract. So for me, I think this is a fine selection. Pick number 10, we got JC Latham, who is a massive riser up to 19th overall on my board. I just rewatched him yesterday, and just being able to watch this guy progress, not just in his ability, but in his motor overall. He still has some reps where he's not playing through to the whistle, but ultimately it went from 80% where he's giving up early and 20% he's actually playing through the whistle the other way around. And that's a massive shift. I got to give guys credit for that. And it shows that at least he is working on it. So good for him. He's gotten better and better. To me, he's my right tackle 2 of the class. Then we got Kool-Aid McKinstry here, and also this is pretty much fake news. PFF's had 335. He could be 360, but I just don't believe he's 360 pounds. It's like the only site that I ever see talking about him at 360. But we got Kool-Aid McKinstry for the Falcons. If he's there, he's well worth that pick. Just a top-tier corner. I know you don't need corner as badly as maybe pick 11 suggests, but when you can get someone who's absolutely locked down at, again, like a $20 to $25 million cap hit position for the best of the best, it is fiscally responsible. Then we got Laiatu Latu here for the Commanders. I'm still not on board with Latu. The more I watch him, I'm really trying to force myself to like him. And I'm just not there yet. I watched his game this past week as well versus Arizona, every single rep. And, he does have those flashes, undoubtedly. But this really, for Law 2, is going to be a post-draft evaluation more than anything, because I just don't think that he himself is going to be a success in the NFL in an environment. And this goes for most prospects in the first place, but him more than anything, I feel like he needs a mentor that could really teach him how to hone his skills, because he has all the skills in the book. Just, I don't feel like he uses them properly. And for the NFL, he uses them properly for college. I have not seen it as translatable to the NFL. However, I do think Washington's a good fit for him. You have some really good mentors there. Maybe not who are edge rushers, but I don't feel like Law 2. I feel like Law 2 needs to refine his game rather than learn it from scratch. And when you have some really damn good hand technicians there in that locker room, I feel like that could be, ultimately what gets this guy to where he needs to be. Malik Neighbors for the Colts. Love the idea of a deep threat there, but I just don't really feel like you need it that badly. He's a fun player. I don't feel like he'd be a negative addition to the squad whatsoever, but I'm going after a DB 10 out of 10 times. Raiders going Nate Wiggins. I think this would be a solid selection. I'd prefer Kalen King personally, but understandable. Nate Wiggins has a great frame overall. He's just a good corner. I don't trust him versus physical wide receivers, but, that's just kind of a nitpick of his game. Keon Coleman, damn. So, I guess if you pass on Marvin Harrison Jr., this is a pretty good consolation prize. But, deep down inside, I still absolutely detest the Caleb Williams pick. But if you end up getting Keon Coleman at 15, I am not going to complain. You got Amarius Mims here at pick number 16. He is a fine addition to the squad as well. I don't understand why these weights are continuing to be inflated. Pretty sure Amarius Mims is not listed at 340 pounds. I don't really get where CBS is getting these statistics from. But regardless, he'd be a fine addition. He's just not been healthy this year, and I highly doubt he comes out. But he'd be a very welcomed addition, I'll tell you that. You got Jerzon Newton here. Again, pretty sure Jerzon's listed at 290. Regardless, another very welcomed addition. He should be a top 10 pick, but if the Chargers get here at 17, I'm not going to complain remotely. Cooper DeJean as a pure safety, he is not a corner. He is going to be a safety in this system. They might use him around as a slot/boundary when injuries come in, but this guy is a long-term, should be safety, because this guy could be one of the best in the NFL at that position. This is a team where it would be an A+ move because, hey, if you have to use him as a corner, most likely he's going to be better than the ones that you have, but ultimately you need safeties as well, and this guy can fit that role easily. JT Tuimoloau does fit the Saints profile for an edge rusher. I do think this wouldn't be a bad idea. He's a good player. He's continuing to get better and better. Maybe he's not the supreme talent that people thought he would be, but he's a lot better than he was last year. And that, for me, is a positive more than a negative. You got Chop Robinson here, who is spectacular. I don't feel like the Vikings, based on what y'all have been telling me, are a team to go edge in the first round. But I would support it. I would. I do think they should go for an edge rusher in the first round. So based on that, I would personally go after a quarterback. You still got Bo Nix and Michael Penix here, but we're going to throw that away for the time being because we all know that's the very obvious criticism of this pick. But looking at the pick itself with Chop Robinson, if it ends up happening this way and no quarterbacks are available, I am not going to complain personally. You got Emeka Egbuka here for the Cowboys. He would essentially have to be kicked to the boundary. I don't think that's a bad idea because Emeka is, an amazing player. But at the same time, part of me just knows that, the Cowboys, you can go after a corner, you can go after a linebacker. Well, linebacker's not good value here. You can go after an offensive lineman. I just would personally try to value other positions before wide receiver, but I'm not going to complain. Emeka Egbuka is way too good of a value to miss out on at this point. Talise Fuaga, if this happens to the Steelers, I'm going to be popping champagne bottles, but that is for another day. I think even though he had a really rough week last week, he definitely still, I give people prospects one mulligan a year, and that's going to be his one mulligan a year. And if it's above 4 pressures, for the most part, I don't give that mulligan. He is right on that limit. He allowed 4 pressures this past week to Colorado of all schools. Really weird. I watched it and, it has unfortunately glaring similarities to what happened the week before. But for me, that just shows that he has primarily one issue to work on, and I'm kind of happy if that's just what I got to work with. I'll tell you that. I would love him on the Steelers. Kingsley Suamate, he's going to be a swing tackle. I don't feel like this team necessarily needs to go offensive line. I would go defensive line first. You got guys like Leonard Taylor on the board. If you want to go after a run stuffer, Chris Jenkins, Tavondre Sweat, those guys are much better value picks for this team. Edge rusher, I don't think is a bad target to go after. And besides that, I don't really feel like there's really much that you need to target. Maybe some backup safeties, but I would not spend a first-round pick on a future safety. You got Romo Dunze here for the Bengals. You'd probably have to put him in the slot. T. Higgins is scheduled to hit free agency, but they could have gotten multiple first-round picks, most likely for T, or maybe even one. They wouldn't keep him and then let him go for a third-round pick. That just essentially a third-round pick for compensatory just would not make sense. So I feel like they're going to either franchise tag or re-sign T. Higgins and then let go Tyler Boyd, so you'd have to use Romo Dunze in the slot, which is not worth it for me in this equation when you have guys who are better built for the slot. Now we got Tyler Nubin here. I don't really feel like safety is going to be a position that Seattle needs to add, but at the same time, sometimes they just like to build a strength, and Tyler Nubin would be a nasty addition. I could totally see him being a Seahawk. Like for me, this is one of those picks where I'm like, I don't see the logic, but my gut says yes. So big fan of Tyler Nubin. Again, I would personally go after the quarterbacks on the board, but apparently our buddy here does not like the QBs. Graham Barton's an A-plus pick for the Niners. You can put him anywhere. So that's kind of a valued addition for a team that does end up dealing with a lot of injuries. And, for me, I think center and right guard are both available. Right tackle is as well, but, it just depends on what you think Graham Barton is going to play. Jack Sawyer for the Dolphins, way too early. And I think they agree with that too. CBS overall. I don't think you need to add edge depth if you're at pick 27. O-line, easy target. Another safety as well. I talked to Broshmo about this. They could always go after a linebacker in there. Like for me, there's just much better value positions and value players on the board than Jack Sawyer, even at the edge position. So let's not even start talking about that. Brian Thomas is a solid wide receiver too. He has potential to be a wide receiver one, but he hasn't really shown the development there yet. He's getting there, and maybe he's about 2 years out from being a true wide receiver one quality player. But when you're at pick number 28, the question is, if you keep Calvin Ridley, this is a great pick. If you don't, then it really starts getting like, well, you're so close to the Super Bowl. Why are you targeting someone who is not going to be a wide receiver one on your team? He is going to be a Zay Jones plus level player. For me, obviously, y'all know my thoughts on Johnny Wilson, but even the consensus on Johnny Wilson is that he's a big slot, or it could even be a big boundary that has the potential, when he's healthy, when he catches the ball right, to be a superstar. I don't see that with Brian Thomas year one. We all know the tools are already there, and they're fully developed for Johnny Wilson, except for the hands. So for me, I'm going to push back on that, even though I like the pick, especially if it's a round 2 pick. Like, just first round, you're going to be banking on him being a wide receiver one. This makes no sense to me. You're talking about Jonah Jackson and Big V going up for free agency, and you're going to potentially kick Jordan Morgan to the inside. Like, I don't get that. I really don't. I don't understand. And Jordan Morgan, no disrespect to him. Like, he has some really solid reps in there, and he's a serviceable lineman. I don't know if he's an actual NFL starter, like for his whole career. I don't know if he's going to be ready to start. He has a lot of intricacies that he's still working on. He has some really beautiful reps in there, but the game of tackle is more consistency than flash, and I don't see it yet with Jordan Morgan. Kalen King is an A-plus pick for the Ravens. He honestly fits the exact mantra of what an AFC North team would have on their secondary as well. Obviously, the Steelers be a great pick. They pairing him up with JPJ, for example, would be a great idea. But, I would hate this as a Steelers fan, would love this as a fan of the draft. KC going Denzel Burke. I don't feel like KC needs to go after another corner for the boundary, but if they do, Denzel Burke is well worth this pick. People crap on him way too much. The crapping has been significantly less since he's continued to play better and better. But, just somebody who I've had a lot of faith in based on his play at the end of last year and seeing how much he progressed. And I'm going to continue to love him in that way. Troy Fautanu, I don't like this pick. And this is why. It really depends on if you believe he can play a tackle. So for me, I don't believe he plays tackle. I'll say that. If you think he can play a tackle, this is an entirely different mindset. What you want to do is get an offensive lineman who could eventually be the replacement for Lane Johnson. That's the ultimate end game here. You got your left tackle, the future down. You got Beef Jurgens in there. You got Tyler Steen. Hopefully you got Landon Dickerson, who's going to be coming up on a contract. Maybe this is a Landon Dickerson replacement. You don't do that in the first round. Sorry, you don't. They didn't even get Landon Dickerson in the first round. And they're probably going to keep Landon. He's probably not going to cost too much money because he hasn't really been, the creme de la creme or there consistently enough, regarded as an all-pro lineman to garner, $20 million a year like a Zach Martin contract. If he wants to do that, we could discuss that when that time comes. But I'd rather go after somebody who has extreme upside at right tackle, like a Tyler Guyton. And then, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you're still taking a swing on a $30 million a year player rather than, at best, 15. It's just not really smart in my eyes financially. So we'll talk about that as it is. Obviously, I'd prefer, based on the guys who are on the board, I would go edge rusher because, again, I don't feel like the offensive line talent's that good in this class. And also, if you want to think of Troy Fautanu as a guard, there's a lot of guards in this class. I would wait to develop a guard. So there's just a lot of different players. For me, if I had to swap this pick for somebody, I just studied Princely Umanmielen. Again, I've studied him 3 times this year. He's a fun one for sure. Just he has some developing to do. Chop Robinson, he was already taken, but for me, Braylon Trice is the creme de la creme for this team. He really fits everything that I'd want, and he definitely is obtainable. So that is going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching and supporting as always. See you on the far side. Peace.